Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to our podcast. My sister is Karen. I'm Karen, and this is my sister Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. This is the conversations that you hear or that happen when you hear someone say, like, I gotta go call my sister. There's nothing that's off limits. Sometimes it's nonsense and frivolous, and other times it's like really deep and really important. So this is just Karen and I sharing it with you guys.
Yeah. So before we get too far into this episode, we have some housekeeping. So we had talked on one of our previous episodes. Jennifer did eat a quick trip lunch. And what did you think?
Did eat Quick Trip lunch. I thought it was decent. I thought it was better than I was expecting. Their kitchen is definitely much better than, it once was. I was out for work and I went into the Quick Trip and I asked the guy that was working at the kitchen, I was like, what do you recommend? And it was not in a particularly desirable part of town that I was in. And the guy was like, what are you looking for? And I go, look, my sister and I have a podcast. She's upset with me because I've never eaten at Quick Trip Kitchen, and she thinks it's like one of her favorite places to eat. So I promised her I would try it. So the guy was like, I mean, I do think everything is really good, but he was like, try the beef brisket sandwich. And so I was like, okay. So I ate a beef brisket sandwich. I did also get jalapeno Cheetos, which are like my new, I don't know. I just found those and I totally like them. I'm not usually into spicy food. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely better than I was expecting. Not saying I'm going to rush out and do it again, but I thought it was very good. And honestly, if I were road tripping, it would be a great alternative to, like, we often stop at Subway for road trips. It'd be a great alternative to Subway.
Yes.
So I did like it. I did not sit in the little like patio chairs because in Arizona it's already like well over 100, and I was like dressed for work and I was like I'd be like a sweaty mess when I walked into the next customer's office. So, but it was good. I was glad you suggested it. I did not off camera. I had said to you like, what should I eat? And you were like some breakfast thing that was like bacon, eggs, and cheese
The
and
breakfast pizza.
gravy. And I was like, no, I'm not eating that.
Okay, and also off camera, not when the episode was released, but after we had recorded, your daughter Lucille texted me because she heard the conversation and was like, I've told mom about Quick Trip Kitchen so many times.
She was like, oh my God, mom, I've told you so many times. And I'm like, I know. And to be fair, like she was a poor college student and like barely getting by. And there were a couple of people in our family who would occasionally send her Quick Trip gift cards just to like $25 or $40 or something, just to like help her out. And the idea was she could use it for gas or she could use it for like odds and ends, lunch on the go, whatever. So yeah, she was like a little salty. She was like, I've been telling you to eat at Quick Trip gas.
Well, and I think actually, because I don't, I've done all kinds of different things for my money stuff. And I used to do prepaid gift cards. And so there were times that I was like, well, we overspent at the grocery store, but we are Quick Trip rich. So we're going there for dinner.
That's funny. Yeah, that's kind of what Lucille had done too.
Yeah.
And when in her college apartment, there was a Quick Trip. It was a really nice Quick Trip, like a super Quick Trip that was like right around the corner, kind of from that apartment that she lived in. So she was very seasoned at Quick Trip. So yeah, it was good. I'm not mad about it at all, and I will probably eat there again someday. The guy that was like checking me out, the Quick Trip employees can do 17 things at once, and so he was like, oh, I heard you saying that you've never eaten at the kitchen before. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, and you guys have a podcast? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, so we're podcast famous? I was like, dude, Quick Trip was already famous for a lot of reasons. Like my podcast, we only have a handful of listeners.
Yeah.
Don't get excited about that.
Yes.
But it was a fun little experiment. I had a good time. Definitely it'll happen again, at some point. So
It's,
anyway, well, go ahead.
I was just going to, it is a really great option road tripping as well, because you can do one
Yeah.
stop for everything and it's not like the, sketchy egg salad sandwiches that it used to be.
Yeah. And again, like even in like questionable neighborhoods, Quick Trip is always clean. It's always safe. Like they really do a good job. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to stop there on the fly like that. I think I mean, again, like I think Quick Trip has one of the best business models like ever. So,
Well, they
yeah,
always have
I think it's
cops
a great
around.
option.
Like,
What?
they always have cops. Cops stop at Quick Trip because they
Yeah.
get free fountain sodas and coffee and whatever. When Michael
Yeah.
was little, he wanted some candy and I told him no, and then he tried to, like, put it under his shirt, and my response wasn't, "Stealing is wrong." I was like, "Dude, there's always cops at Quick Trip."
Seriously. Yeah, they're always there. And honestly, Quick Trip is always well staffed. There's always 3 or 4 or more people working there. Like they are well staffed.
Yes.
So, and they're like monitoring things like they may not know exactly how many people are in the bathroom, but they do know if like a weird amount of people walked in there and didn't come out. Like they know what's going on. So they're pretty on top of it. Again, like I think their business model is really good. They must pay their employees really well, and they also must have really good benefits because they retain employees like back, I mean, a long time ago when I lived in Wichita, there was a Quick Trip not far from our house. And the same like core 4 guys worked. Actually, there were 4 guys and there was a female too. They worked there the whole time I lived in that house. And that was like 7 years. I mean, I know like some of them like shifted around and like worked night shift and then day shift. One of them was a manager or something supervisory, but they retain their employees. I mean, again, like their business model should be studied. But
Yeah.
hey, how are you feeling? Last week, we did a real short and sweet episode. You were not feeling your best. How are you doing this week? I mean, I know you and I have talked off camera, but
Yeah.
you
Um,
know.
yeah, so this has been a much better week. I did a couple of things. One of the things that I did that really helped was I did some a group therapy thing through BetterHelp, and I kind of forget how much group therapy really because you think it's just not
Mhm.
like you're like, "Oh, I don't want to go to a group and listen to everyone bitch about their stuff." But when it's focused and everyone's talking about the same struggle, it is really awesome. Um, kind of coming
That
out of my funk. My hair's still in a
Mhm.
ponytail, but I did shower, and this is the 2nd day in a row.
And you have makeup on.
Yes.
Your eyes look really nice, actually. I don't know if it's I know you were putting mascara on right before we got on camera,
Yes.
so I don't know if that's it, but your eyes look really nice.
It's this Natasha Denona palette that she has, like, this purple glitter that just I think she made it just for me, and then everyone else
Did
could
she?
yeah. I mean, it's all purple glittery stuff, so
Which is your jam.
yes, absolutely, and
Yeah.
for those of you watching, I don't know if you've noticed, but I got a fancy new mic cover as part of my
Yeah.
Mother's Day present because my son was, we did the cool thing where I was like, I just want to hang out and spend time with you. And he was like, well, you have to have a present. And I was like, well, you're buying lunch. That's the present. And he's like, but that's not a present. What are you keeping? So
I love that.
and he even said, he was like, what's something you want for your podcast? And
Aw.
I know. So I was like, actually, I really want a cute mic cover. And so he found one on Amazon and I love it.
Yeah. Karen's signature color has been purple since you were like 4, since you could say the word. I don't
Couldn't
know.
say
Like
it
that's
correctly.
always been your favorite color.
Yeah, but I had a speech impediment, so I was killing who loved purple.
Yeah. Yeah. But you had a purple couch at times in your life. You wear a lot of purple clothes, especially like, I mean, like, I know a lot of times on the podcast you're in like your t-shirts or
Yeah.
whatever, but like your wardrobe, the clothes that you buy are often purple. We all buy you purple things. Purple nails are common for you. Like you said, the purple eyeshadow.
God, I'm looking at my
So
closet and
I
I'm like,
love that
purple dress,
Michael,
purple skirt. Yeah, it is a lot.
yeah, I love that Michael wanted to get you something for the podcast, knowing that that was something that you were really enjoying. And what a great kid.
I know.
He's a yeah, yeah, you did well.
He is a keeper.
Okay, so I want to tell you about these ladies that I saw at lunch today.
Okay.
So I had lunch with a coworker and I mean, it was like a businessy lunch. We were talking through some like strategy and stuff like this in my area, but we were at this place it's one of my favorite places. It's an olive mill. And so there's like an olive grove and then they have like a little cutesy little restaurant. I take everybody there when they come to visit. It's a really cool place. And so we're just like sitting there eating. It doesn't even matter where we were at. I don't know why I added that to the story as a side quest, but we're sitting there eating our lunch and like visiting, talking about like how are we going to strategize for this thing and what does August look like, and just like doing all of these things. And then also like peppered in like stories about our dogs, how's your boyfriend, like the usual things. And I wasn't even looking, like we were only paying attention to each other. And this lady comes over with her cell phone and she's like, "Hey, would you guys mind taking a picture of my friend and I?" And we were like, "No, of course not." Okay, when I tell you these ladies were like, I'm not a good judge of age because
Yeah.
I've spent too much time in the medical field where like you might see 50-year-olds who look like they're 95, and then you might see 80-year-olds who look like they're 45. So it's you become like immune to age because it just like
And
I
our
don't know,
parents
I
look
can't
young.
guess.
Like, I'm like, I'm not a good
Yeah.
judge of age because I.
Yeah. So these ladies were definitely, I mean, they were in really good health. They were really active. They were probably 75 to 80. There were two of them. They wanted a picture of them holding up their little piece of pizza. Like they leaned into each other and held up their piece of pizza in their glass of wine. And they were like, look, if all the young people can put the pictures of them eating their food on Facebook, we're doing it too. And I loved it. I was like, this is such good energy. Like, I'm so excited for this. One of the ladies had like actually, they both were dressed really cute. Both like full heads of gray hair, but like they both had their hair done. They both had makeup on. One of them had on like Karen style, like bluey purple eyeshadow. I was just like so excited. One, that they asked us to do that. And then two, when they did their like hot girl pose, like, I was dying. It was so fun.
Love that.
I do too. I was literally like, I hope that's me in 15 years. Like I even said to so the coworker who I had lunch with, I'm also friends with. And I was literally like, I hope that's us 15, 20 years from I mean, they're more than 15 years older than us, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
It was great energy, and actually Chrissy ended up taking the picture of them, but yeah, it was great energy. I was so like into it. I almost like wanted to friend them so
Yes.
like their picture.
Yes.
Oh, anyway. Okay, so I want to actually talk about, I want to talk about a quote that I saw on TikTok. And I should have had it prepared to pull it up, but here it is. So I saw this quote on TikTok recently. And like I probably saw this like 3 weeks ago, and it's just stuck with me this whole time. It's about Generation X. So it says, I didn't write this. I don't even know the person that wrote it, but it says, I was at a leadership conference and one of the speakers was talking about generation strife. And she talked to and about the boomers and then the millennials and then the zoomers. Then she said, Gen X, I didn't forget you, even if the rest of the world has. But I have no advice for you for a few reasons. You don't need it. You are the most independent and self sufficient generation in the history of mankind, and there is literally nothing I can teach you. Second, even if I did have something to tell you, you wouldn't care. Third, the reason we ignore you is because the rest of us are all terrified of you. If the zombie apocalypse ever happens and we are all hiding, if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, we are all hiding behind you. Somehow you'll know what to do. I found this incredibly thought provoking, and I thought about it for like literally probably 2 to 3 weeks. I like thought about it and went back and like reread it. I took a screenshot of it, went back and like reread it. I sent it to you eventually, and I was like, I kind of want to talk about this on the podcast. I think it's a loaded quote, like very, very loaded.
Yes.
And I just felt like there's a lot to unpack there. It is us. We are Gen X. It is us. And I just kind of was like, let's talk through this a little bit. And I wonder, like, I mean, I know we've talked about it already because I brought it up to you a couple days ago, but I mean, I kind of wanted to know, like, what were your initial thoughts when I don't remember if I read it to you or if I sent you
You
the
sent it to
screenshot.
me.
Okay.
Like, my initial thoughts were, I was like, yeah, that's us. You can tell us. We don't care. We're not going to listen. And yeah, we're kind of scary. And so my initial thoughts were kind of like, yeah, I see that. The
Mhm.
like one, and so then I was like Googling like what makes Gen X special, or, I just kind of like trying to find some research stuff. And one of the things that consistently came up was how resourceful, like the self sufficiency, and like our generation is really resourceful. We can think outside the box if we need to. We can follow the directions exactly if everything's perfect and whatever. One of the examples I gave is, and I don't want to put any generations on blast or anything, but I was like, in nursing, the nurses that are my age, that are Gen X ish, are much more flexible. Like the example I gave to Jen was I had a new millennial nurse, and she was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, this wound care order has, like an 8x12 island dressing, and we only have the 6x6. And I'm like, just cut the island dressings and put them together so it just makes the shape you need. But like something that simple, that I'm like, just make it work. Like, don't call a surgeon and ask them to change their orders based on the stock in our Pyxis. Oh my.
Mhm.
Um, and that was kind of one of the where I was like, our generation, I do feel like, is more, well, what can we figure out to make it work? We are really resourceful. One of the things we also want to say is Jen and I are both like younger Gen X. So,
Yeah,
and our siblings are technically millennials, like our two younger siblings. They very much fall into the like zillennial category where they were raised,
absolutely.
yeah, like they were raised more like Gen X because they had,
And then had the influence of you and I as the older Gen X siblings. But I do think, yeah, you make a good point about us being at the end of Generation X.
yes. So like some people, their experience might be totally different. I mean, I feel like we just were so unsupervised. We had to figure out how to do our own shit, you know?
Yeah. And I think definitely, like to your point about us being at the end of Gen X, there are times when I catch myself relating more to millennials. I wouldn't say I ever relate more to millennials than I do to Gen X, but there are times that I catch myself there because we are almost on the cusp of that. So there are certainly Gen Xers who are like 10 years older than us, or maybe even 15 years older than us, whose experience would be quite different than ours. Like that's the nature of it. Let's talk about, I mean, the speaker kind of breaks down three things in this. I do think it would be interesting if we knew how old the speaker was. It would be interesting to know from what perspective is she saying this about Gen X? Maybe it would be the same, whether you were saying it as a millennial or as a boomer, but maybe it wouldn't. I
Or
don't know. And so I do like,
as a
I kind
Gen
of wish I
Xer.
had that.
I mean, it could be
Exactly. Like, I sort of wish I had that nugget of information, but I don't. But I do, like, she kind of breaks down like several things. She goes, these are the reasons that I don't have advice for you. And I want to talk about those three things. Like she said, the world has forgotten us. I don't know if that's true. I thought that was really interesting. I feel like that's too much to unpack on this podcast. But she did say, like, the world has forgotten you and she has no advice for us. And she was like, because one, you don't need it. You're the most independent, self sufficient generation in the history of mankind. That is a high bar. No other generation has been as independent and self sufficient as we have. Like, I don't I think we were incredibly independent at a very young age.
I mean,
Like,
I'm gonna
I
say
definitely think
cavemen might have been more independent, but
right.
in modern times, we might be the most independent.
We were so adultless. Like, I don't like if you weren't raised with us, we were so adultless that we did have to become really independent and self-sufficient and very young. We didn't, it was out of necessity. It was survival of the fittest in some cases. Like,
Real.
that was how it worked. And I, I know where I personally fit into the independent thing, but I think, I think sometimes like you make a lot of jokes about like I'm this or I'm that, and and a bit of a self-deprecating, but also self-awareness. That I think you also are actually more independent than you would let on, or than like someone who doesn't know you really well. Like, I mean, I think I see the independence in you, but I don't know that everybody would see that on the surface.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people are like, because I'm not, here's the thing, even when I make enough money to support myself and my kid and what, I don't manage my own money because I'm impulsive and I have poor judgment. So my self-awareness has made it where I'm like, okay, well, I put my bills on auto pay and then I ask someone else in my family to right now it's my mom, and I'm like, hey, do I have $60 to go get a petty man, whatever. So that automatically because that's how people first see like independence and but a lot of ways I like you and I, neither of us really dated a ton in like high school, and that I mean some of like it's not like we were the chicks that were getting asked out all the time or whatever, but it's not that we didn't have opportunities to date. And like even now people, I'm 48 and people will be like, oh, have you ever been married? And my off the cuff I'm always like, no, I'm much too smart for that. And I mean I'm just so in a lot of ways I do feel like,
But you're smarter than me, is what you're saying.
yes, I didn't say it, you did, um, but I am independent in that, like, I don't, when I think about, people, well, when I tell them, Michael's father has never ever been present or
Mhm.
anything, and they do, the friends like the head tilt and the head bob and what, and I'm like, but the truth is, I wouldn't know how to parent with someone else. Like, it's completely my show. And good or bad, so if I screw up, it's all on me. But I do think, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't like people are like, well, don't you want to have someone to live with and spend your life with? And I'm like, I don't want to share my closet. No, I don't like, um, so I do think because independence, people automatically assume like, oh, independence means that you have bought your own house and whatever. Just because I don't own a house doesn't mean that I'm not independent. Maybe it means that I choose to not own a house because I don't want to do yard work.
I mean, I think the independence and the self-sufficiency, probably I am more outward, the embodiment of that. Like, I think a lot of people would look at me and be like, yeah. I mean, like, even as a matter of fact, I recently was at a professional conference, not the same one that this person was at. We didn't talk about generational strife, but one of the first exercises we had to do at the conference was it was a leadership conference put on, like a culture conference put on at my company. And I was in a room with a lot of people who I interact with on a mild level. Like usually people above me are interacting with them. So there was like I know who they are and they know who I am too, but on my day to day, I those are more senior leadership. We had to do this exercise in the beginning, like the first thing we do, break into 6 groups. They put us in the 6 groups and they're like, tell a characteristic that you have that has served you well professionally. Tell why you have that characteristic, like what happened in your childhood or your history that gave you that. And then explain why it's maybe not always a great thing. Like, how has it held you back professionally? And the idea was one, like to sort of like break the ground that we're going to talk about some personal things. And then two, a lot of the things that a lot of the things that make us successful actually are also a double-edged sword and they can also hinder that same success. And so it was sort of illustrative of this. It was really this was before I had seen this quote, and I was in a group of 6. The VP of sales for the US is in my group, and then 2 people who are above him are in my group. And I'm just over here like, I'm a lowly salesperson. I don't even know why I'm in this group. So I went last in the group and which was great because then I got to watch how everyone else responded. So I was able to really gauge my response so that it wasn't too like revealing or whatever. When it came to be my turn, I literally said, I think what I said was self-sufficient. I might have said resourceful. I can't remember. Actually, I said resourceful. I go, I am extremely resourceful. And I said, like, we grew up without a lot of money. And then I got married very young, and I immediately moved to Europe as a young married girl and had a baby within a year and a half of moving there. We did like Google we were on dial up internet at that, like that was my daughter's 25, so we were on dial-up internet, so Google was not it did exist, but there wasn't as much information loaded into Google as there is today, and it was also incredibly slow. I had to figure everything out because there was no option. My mom was not a phone call away. There was a 7-hour time difference. It was extremely expensive to call long distance back then,
You
and
couldn't
so
even
I just said like,
hop on an email because it was dial up and
mm-mm,
like
mm-mm.
your email
Yeah.
stuff was even spotty. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just said like I'm incredibly resourceful. If I have something that I've got to figure out, I will figure it out. And then on top of that, like I ended up divorced as a young woman with 2 children and no education. So again, like I always had to figure things out, and I always do. The reason it's a downside in my career is because I will always figure it out. So if you don't give me proper support at work, I'm going to figure it out. It may look like a freaking cowboy figured it out. It may look like I went rogue and did it, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm only going to ask once. I'm going to ask for help. And if I don't get it in the first place I ask for it, that's it. I'm going to figure it out. So that's the downside. But it was really interesting because I literally used that in this group. Probably a couple of the people in my small group were also Gen Z, Gen X. And then there was probably a boomer or two in my group. I don't think there were any millennials. I don't, it wasn't like age wise, it was an older, I mean, again, senior management. So not really very many young people in that instance. But I thought it was really interesting because I had that experience of this workshop. And I did continue to think again, like we're recording after I've worked all day. And so my mouth doesn't work, but whatever.
It's fun.
I did continue to like think through it because, like I said, this for me, that's a very revealing thing to say. I don't reveal myself very often. This podcast is extremely off brand for me. Like, I am not usually this open with people. And so I continued to like think through that day, that event. And then I found this thing on TikTok and I was like, so weird because I literally just said this about myself. So I think like going back to what you said, like I'm probably outwardly, people would look at me and be like, Jennifer's really independent. I do make a good living, but I had to scratch and claw to get here. Like I put myself through school with a lot of family support, but I put and a lot of friendship support too. I put myself through school with a divorced woman with 2 kids. I got to the place where I'm making 6 figures. I can afford all of my bills are easy to pay. Like I'm not saying my life is easy, but as far as my finances go, it is easy. I worked really hard to get there. I used all the resources in in my repertoire and I got myself there and I had to scratch and claw to get there. So I think people do look at me, people who don't know me, but if they know a tiny bit of my story, they probably do look at me and think like, yeah, Jennifer's probably really self-sufficient. She's really resourceful. She's really independent. Don't like I am still open to dating, but dating is hard for me because I am really independent. And in my past relationships, that's been a thing. So I think like outwardly, I probably look more like a stereotypically independent, but I think you have a lot of independence in you as well. You're just not as fierce about it as maybe like I am, or even our sister Megan, you
Yeah.
know?
One of the other things, like I very much feel like our generation was kind of raised like, think for yourself. Like, don't sell out and just work for the man. Like, damn the man, think for yourself, figure it out.
Get outside the box,
Yes,
think outside the box was always like there was a whole thing during our later education, like middle and high school, and then especially in
because
college
that's
for
when
sure.
outside the
But there was a
box.
whole thing, not just think outside the box, but learn to think instead of learning to know. Do you remember that? Like, that was a huge thing. My first year of college, that was a huge thing. Like, like you should be in college learning to think instead of learning to know. That was drilled into us.
Yeah, it was doubly drilled in, like, the nursing has all this they're like, "Well, that's where your critical nursing skills come your critical thinking,
Yeah.
you have to think it through and be resourceful and but I do feel like our generation very much, like, was like, "We're not gonna do what our parents did, we're doing it our way," kind of from the time we were little,
Yeah.
which is weird because I also think, like, okay, so in actuality, that rebelliousness had to have come from our parents because, like, in
Maybe.
3rd grade, what do we know about, like, I'm not gonna be a corporate sellout? I don't
Yeah. I mean, I do think there's I think some of the independence and stuff goes back to the whole like we were latchkey kids, like that, like the term latchkey kids came around when we were coming of age. It probably already existed by the time that we came along, but that term came along because we all went home after school to empty houses. And even like our parents' generation is the most divorced generation in history. Even now, our parents' generation is the most divorced generation. We personally, Karen and I, our parents did not get divorced. They're still married even today. And we also we were raised in a Catholic school community. And so most of our friends did not come from divorced families either until we got older and kind of like expanded outside of our church community. But we all went home after school to empty houses. There were no adults at home.
no. We talked through this off camera and we, like, went through the houses and we were like, "No," like, because then I was like, "Oh," the Bobby, the kid that lived across the street from I'm like, I remember him saying that someone was his babysitter, and I was like, "I've never seen this person here." And Bobby was like he was the year ahead of me in school, but, I think we were on our own from the time that I was in, like, 1st or 2nd grade.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we came home, everybody in our neighborhood went home to empty houses. And it's interesting when you think about it. Like, I didn't put this together until I had looked up some information about Gen X. And one of the things that they said was society, like the infrastructure of society had not caught up to what the families were doing during the time that we were coming of age. During the 70s and 80s, more women, like more families were dual income families, then they were divorced. And so both parents had to work anyway. But we didn't have like after school programs and things like that because society hadn't caught up to that. And so again, like the term latchkey kids referred to like we went home, we had a house key. You got home, you got off the bus or walked home from school or whatever it was. You got home, there was usually a list of chores that you had to get done. You were supposed to get your list of chores done, get your homework done. And in some cases, we cooked dinner too.
Yeah.
And then our parents got home when our parents got home from work. And that was when adult supervision started. If you were either responsible enough to get your homework and your chores and everything done, then you could go out and play afterwards. But also, there were a lot of us that went out and played and then came home and like slammed out the chores 10 minutes before our dad was supposed to be home or whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, like I was playing with all the kids in the neighborhood that didn't have parents at home either. I don't even know if there were like we lived on a really long block. We knew everybody on our block. We didn't play with all of them, but we knew everybody on our block. Were there any adults that were home before 5 or 5:30?
That there was
Like I don't
when we were a little bit older, there was one stay-at-home mom. She was the weirdly religious one.
Yeah, we were older then though. But you're right. There was that one couple and she stayed home. They were very religious. They didn't believe in like women working outside the family. They had a lot of kids, but they didn't live there the whole time. Like all the years that we were running amok, they didn't live there. They moved in when we were like had hit high school or something, I think.
Yeah, like, they came when I was in, like, 6th or 7th grade.
But again, like looking at like the whole like self-sufficient and independent, like when you think about, I was like probably 11 years old. I had three siblings. I came home after school, unlocked the door, did my homework, yelled at you guys to do your homework. We all ate snacks, predetermined snacks. We all had chores to do. I mean, when you think about it, like that's a lot. Like we would never put that kind of responsibility on an 11-year-old today. We wouldn't even put that kind of responsibility on a 13 or 14-year-old. But our parents didn't have a choice because they didn't have like affordable after school care or something like that. And they were coming home at 6 o'clock at night, no DoorDash, no like pre-order your, dinner tray at the grocery store or anything like that. So like I mean, you and I were cooking the dinners a lot of times. Like
Yes.
we literally, yeah. So I mean, if everybody thinks we're self-sufficient, that's because we damn well are, and we have been since we were children.
Yeah. And it is out of a necessity.
Totally. And not even faulting our parents because again, like it was a necessity for our parents. Our parents were not college educated and they probably lived paycheck to paycheck most of our lives. And so they were both working to put food on the table. Like I don't think one could put food on the table without the other. So it's not even like like in our case anyway, it's not like our parents were doing this for a better life. Like this was survival for them too.
'Cause I would
But yeah,
sorry, I would say that, like, because our mom worked sometimes, like, part-time, I mean,
uh
especially, like, during the summer when she was taking us to the pool and such, I think she was probably one of the most present parents. I mean, like, I don't remember a lot of other there was a few who had, like, the mom worked part-time or whatever, but even that was kind of an anomaly. Most of
right.
them worked, like, a 9 to 5 office job
uh
or worked at the school or whatever.
And it was honestly like when you think back, like we've talked about it this week, when you think back on it, it was a little bit of anarchy. Like we went to the Catholic school and it was in the neighborhood that we lived in. And most of the kids that went to the Catholic school lived in the same neighborhood. And we all like walked home after school. No, hardly anybody got picked up after school. We walked home. And when people say, like, I walked home in 10 feet of snow, we did. We actually legitimately did. The Catholic school
And it was
rarely
uphill
called
both
school
ways,
off.
okay? It
It actually was.
I know,
You
I
went
was
down the
like,
hill and then
you
back
could
up the
say it's
hill.
downhill both ways as well, but it was uphill both
Exactly.
ways.
We did it. It'd be 95 degrees at the end of May, and we're walking home like that. And we walked home in packs. So the Catholic school was like K through 8, like kindergarten through 8th grade. And you walked home in packs. And so you might have been walking home with 7th graders. There were fights. Like people would like throw their backpacks down and like fight in the street. Kids like some kids were on bikes and they're like running us over on the sidewalks like the walkers. I mean, bullying, like I got bullied hardcore on that long walk from the school to the house. I got bullied on a regular basis. They called me freckle face and all kinds of names. I'd be crying by the time I got home. I'd run into the house like just in tears, and I was a little dramatic too. But it was anarchy. I mean, like absolute anarchy. I feel like I swear there was this one kid that went to the public school, but his bus dropped off around like somewhere along our walk home route. And I remember who he was. I don't remember his name, but I remember who he was. And I think he got like I think he might have had to get stitches a time or two. Like they beat him up. Like
Well,
they
yeah,
just
because there was
and I
very
don't even
much
know who
like
they is. It was like who was they? The older boys? Like I don't even know.
yeah,
So we were just when you got old enough, like for me, when I got old enough that I could walk home by myself, I did, because a lot of times it'd be like, when you're K1, 2, like your mom will be like, oh, you're going to walk home with so and so every day. And maybe my mom was paying that person like 50 cents a day, or maybe my mom had just made an arrangement with their mom that like Jennifer's going to walk home with you. But when I got old enough that I could choose who I walked home with, you would like leave the school and you would kind of hang out and watch which pack you wanted to leave with, like which pack was going to be safe today, because you didn't know. Like one day, those older boys might have been defending you. Another day, they might have been ignoring you. And then another day, they might be picking on you the whole way home and fighting with each other. Like you never knew. It was a total, absolute anarchy and chaos. And
well,
I
I
don't even, did our parents even know?
Well, and here's the other thing that I think about. No, I don't think that they knew. But like Bobby, his house was kind of the like after school daycare. Like the kids that lived in Grandview that like couldn't walk to and from school, a lot because I remember like I was always like, who's coming home
They
with you today?
did. They went to his house after school.
Like yes, half his class did, I swear.
Yeah,
Because that also made a difference. Like, who's walking home with you so I know if I'm going to walk home with you?
I know. And what happened at recess?
Yes.
And who has like it's almost like Survivor. Like remember back in the early days of Survivor and like people would like build alliances? It's like that. You're like, okay, well, did Colleen play with Jackie at recess? Because if they're aligned, then I probably don't want to walk home with them. But if they're not aligned, then I can walk home with Colleen and Jackie. Like it was, and honestly, like it was a lot to navigate emotionally. Like we didn't know how you just like made those decisions on the fly because again it was like survival of the fittest. It was literally then you would get home, so then like you would survive the anarchy of the walk home with maybe like eighth graders, like I don't know, and then you would get home and now you're responsible for the house, the homework, the chores, the younger siblings, whatever it is. And so then it was like all the self-sufficiency comes back into play again because like remember our bathroom used to like some I don't know if you closed the door wrong or something, it was locked, but you were on the outside. We only had one bathroom in the house we grew up in, so if it was locked and there was no one inside of it, we had to pick the lock. That was not something that you called mom for at work. That was something we learned how to pick that bathroom lock. We were very young and we knew how to pick that bathroom
Yeah.
lock.
Yeah, we were very young, which just again shows like our resourcefulness. Like we
Yeah.
were, we didn't have all the resources of today. There weren't YouTube tutorials teaching us how
No.
to put shit together or whatever. When we broke stuff, I have my funny, hilarious story. One of our cousins, who now is a stand-up comedian, fittingly enough. So Nick is like a year younger than me, maybe 2 years. He's close to my age. And so at one point, Nick and I were put in charge. Jennifer was too cool. You had a car at that point. You probably had a job. So Nick and I were in charge of the younger kids. And like I was in charge of his siblings. He was in charge of my siblings, whatever. And we were at his house, at his parents' house. And they had one of those cordless phones with the antenna that would like pull out that metal antenna that like only worked 3 times anyway. So
Yeah, yeah, those broke so fast.
yeah. So it was already like jacked up, like you couldn't put it back in or whatever, and we broke it and it fell completely off. And Nick's resourceful idea was he was like, okay, let's put some water around it and like put it in a plastic baggie and stick it in the freezer so that it
No,
freezes
I do remember this.
with the antenna on. And then, like, it'll just fall off when one of his parents is talking on the phone and they'll think it's their fault.
Oh my God.
I mean, but like,
I mean,
we literally were like, okay, we were like 11 and 12 years old. Like, maybe I was 13, but we were in like seventh and eighth grade.
fixing household things.
Yeah.
Household things would break and we would fix them. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many like dishes and plates and stuff broke on our watch and we just like super glued them and hoped that our parents would never notice. They definitely noticed.
Yeah.
But I mean, we would just slap a band-aid on whatever the issue was because it was easier than calling our parents and getting yelled at or worse like not calling them and having them come home and find it and being pissed off. So yeah,
Well,
we did so
when
many
we
of
were
these things.
little, our dad, I mean, at that time, he was still driving trucks a fair amount. So, like, he
Mhm.
literally there was no way to reach him. Mom, we
Yeah,
could often
yeah.
call and bug her wherever she was working.
Often at Aunt Kathy's. So if you called mom at work, if she was teaching a class, you could usually get Aunt Kathy though, who was a total substitute for mom.
Yes.
Nicer too. And then you put into the mix that like not the same thing, but it was totally normal for 11 and 12-year-olds to babysit the other families in the community. Like Like I swear I was getting paid for babysitting at 11 years old, babysitting like neighbors that were like 5 and 3, or, I mean, I babysat babies that I had to change their diapers. I'm sure our mom was, because I was always like a really responsible kid, and our mom was always telling everybody how like freaking responsible I was. And so I'm sure my mom would just be like telling like the neighbors at church or whatever, like, oh, Jennifer's totally responsible. Like, call her, she can babysit on a Friday night. We were getting paid to babysit for other people's children at like 11 years old.
I had to wait until I was 12 to get paid to
You
do.
were less responsible than
I
me.
was, for sure. Again, I have some not great judgment, impulsivity, but yeah, I mean, at 12 years old, yeah, I was getting paid to babysit
Yeah.
the kids down the street or whatever. And I was getting paid to babysit. Like, I remember the one family down the street that the mom was divorced and she would like go out and like come home late. Like, we would spend the night there. But the she had two kids. The son was Mike's age, but the girl was only like 2 years younger than me. I mean,
I believe I was not in high school yet. And there was a family that I also babysat for overnight. It was someone that because mom went back to college when we were young. And it was someone that mom knew from college. So it was a lady that was younger than mom, and she was a single mom, and her daughter was only, and at that time it was like a little, like, we didn't know a lot of people that were single moms. The daughter was only like 3. She was like a toddler, and she lived in an apartment. And I babysat. Literally, the mom didn't come home until like 8 or 9 in the morning. Like, I even got up in the morning, and I'm very sure that was before I was in high school. I would like today, I would never. I would just, wait. I mean, I don't know. I just bumped the microphone. I do it every week. I need to learn to not with my hands. Anyway, so moving on. So continuing to the other things that speaker is
yes.
talking about.
So what else did she say? We're problem that the second thing she says is that even if we had something to tell you, we wouldn't care, which I think is very, I mean, again, like we kind of touched on, our generation was very like, damn the man, we're going to do our own thing. We had this like fierce need to like, and I think some of it was like, we're going to stand out. And which is weird that now people are like, oh, Gen X is like the forgotten and the overlooked generation, because I feel very much like how we got to be this tough is because we're like, we're going to be different than all these other losers before us.
I think we did grow up with a chip on our shoulder, and maybe some of it had to do with like we were adulting at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And so by the time that we were actually adults, we were like, fuck it, we know everything. I
Yeah.
think we definitely came into adulthood with a bad attitude. Like 100%. I think I did. I think you did. All of our siblings, all 4 of us came into our 20s with a really bad attitude.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like I I think we did come into adulthood with a bad attitude in our 20s. And I think we did kind of like come in like raging. Like, like I don't know. I feel like we've mellowed a little bit as we've come into middle age, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe the herd has not mellowed. I probably have a little bit, but to an extent, that's because my fierceness didn't always serve me well. And so maybe I calmed it down a little bit. I think parenting also like made me calm down a little bit. But I would agree that there was for sure a moment in time when we would not have listened. As a herd, there was a moment in time that we would not have listened. I wonder if the greater herd still does not listen. I think I do, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not as self-aware as I would like to be.
Um, I mean, I think, and maybe it's both of us, because I feel like I have mellowed a little bit with age. I also, one of the things our youngest sister, I remember having this conversation with our brother once about when Megan was like a teenager and she was being wild and whatever. And Mike and I were like, okay, but she gets caught doing all the same stuff that we did because like she's trying so hard to like push the boundaries and like be a badass and
Yeah.
whatever. And Mike and I both were like, we don't want to necessarily be nonconformists, but we are. Like it,
Yeah.
and I think some of that is just like it is just kind of raised with us.
I think there was an attitude from our parents, and by our parents, I mean like again, like the parents of the herd. Our parents did fit into this, but I think there was an attitude. We grew up in a this way or like this way. Like this, like you're going to do things my way, and this is my way. And it was not even like my way or the highway. Like, I mean, our mom's favorite thing to say to us was, I waited my whole life to tell my kids because I'm the mom. We tried, like, we would try to push back about like rules or things like babysitting or whatever it was. And our parents would be like, I said so. You have to do it this way because I said so. Our generation does not parent our children like that. And I don't know, maybe the boomers were parented like that. Our parents again were young boomers. I don't we were parented like that. And I think that stoked an attitude of like fuck this in our herd generation. Like I think there was an attitude of like because all of our friends' parents were also saying like because your curfew's at midnight because I said so. Not like your curfew's at midnight because nothing good happens after midnight. Not they didn't say that to us. They didn't say to us like, "Oh, we want you to stay safe, like you're 16, you don't need to be out after midnight." No, it was literally your curfew's at midnight because I said so. There was never like logic behind it because they didn't feel like they needed logic. They just told us what to do and how to do it. So I think by the time that we were old enough to like break those rules, act out, and then as of course coming into adulthood, like we were like, we're gonna do it our way because we had been that was pent up for years in us.
Well, and
And so maybe that's where the speaker's saying like you guys wouldn't care. Maybe that's where that comes from. Maybe we don't care because we're tired of everybody tell our parents and our teachers. I mean, it wasn't just our parents and our friends' parents parented us too, and our aunts and uncles.
and like one of the examples that I thought of was when, because again, we went to Catholic schools, and I remember in like fourth grade, they were like, all of the rules that we have are for your safety. And I was like, well, how is nail polish not safe? Because I don't know why in fourth and fifth grade I wanted to paint my nails, but I did.
We always liked nail polish. Grandma Mulebach used to wear a lot of nail polish, remember? And we thought she was so glamorous.
Yes. But like,
And also, let's not even get into all this sexist uniform situation that was not for safety.
yeah, like even when we questioned and we were like, okay, well, you said that the reason for these rules is safety, but like this one clearly doesn't fall into that. And instead of being like, you know what, it's because we don't want the person who can't afford nail polish to feel bad, or we want you guys all to look the same. That's why you wear a freaking uniform, blah, 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 whatever. Instead, they were just like, you're too young to understand. You'll, how many times did we also hear that one? Like, you'll understand it later.
Too young to understand.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah. Because so I do feel like even when we used our like critical thinking skills and we were like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't fit with what you just said. Um, and that was seen as bad, like that. I mean, because I asked questions like that, they were
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, I was like a
Yeah.
troublemaker. Well, not really. I'm a curious person. Like, I still am. I still ask questions all the time. And I sometimes have to say to, like, when I was doing like travel nursing, I'd be like, okay, well, why do you guys do it like that? Because I've always done it this way. And I'm like, I'm asking legitimately why you made that choice. Like, I want to be educated and know. And I have this little bit of like this thing where I feel like I have to explain that because growing up, it wasn't okay to be curious and to question things. Like, you just didn't question the rules.
Yeah. If you are not from Generation X, like if you're a millennial or a Generation Z or a Zoomer, as that speaker calls it, I don't think that you can really comprehend the level of don't question the system that we were raised on, whether it was politically, school, religion, our parents, our grandparents, like they're the theme of do not question it. We like the rule is this, do not question it, is that runs deep for us. So I don't know, like when she says, we wouldn't care, I don't know that we wouldn't care, but I think to an extent we are tired of being told because we were raised like that. And maybe it's like because we do care. Like we're a generation that does care. Like we have helped to shift language to make things better. Like we got away from saying things that people used to say when we were kids. So like I do think we care, but maybe we only care about what we care about. And if you're not going to give us any explanation, I've already shut down. Like if it's going to be like this is the way it is and you've got to do it, I'm probably already done because I've been listening to that shit since I was young enough to listen. So I don't know that we don't care, but you've got to get our buy-in, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you've got to get us plugged in order to get us to care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm looking at the outline as well. Sorry. Okay, so the last part of it is that, we're all going to hide behind you in the zombie apocalypse. And I do believe that that is true for a lot of our generation. I am not that part. I my plan for the zombie apocalypse, I don't know if you saw this part of the outline that I sent back to you, Jen. I was like, my plan is I'm going to loot all the neighbors' houses for their desserts. That's what I'm doing.
That's hilarious.
Like, if
Yeah,
mankind is counting on me, you guys are fucked. I don't know how else to say it.
yeah. Interesting because she was like, we're terrified of you. We will hide behind you if the zombie apocalypse happens because we think you'll know what to do. I know why you think we'll know what to do. I absolutely
For
know that.
sure. If you were like, come to Arizona and I'll take care. Yes. Okay, fine. I'll follow you.
I did like not only did I find this the funniest part of the entire quote, obviously, because it's hilarious. I also it did like I found myself being proud. Like I found myself like I was like, she's not wrong. She is not wrong. I would say one, the zombie apocalypse thing, I am not going down like that. If I am the last freaking human left, I will survive the zombie apocalypse. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I am surviving the zombie apocalypse because I will not go down like that. And I think that my attitude about like that is not how I go down. That's probably common. I think a lot of people our age are like that.
Yeah, I'm
It might be
definitely
part
like
of the
me
reason.
being like, no, I'm not even gonna fight. I'm not like, that's not my gig. That people are like, seriously?
Not your dick at all. It's part of the like no lie. There are times that I'm like, this is why I go to the gym because I will be in shape when the zombie apocalypse happens. I'm not going down like that. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going down like that. That's not how I go out.
Thinking I'm like, Mary Ellen, she's gonna have the best desserts. I mean, like,
No, I that's not how I go out. But I thought it was interesting that she said the rest of us are terrified of you. That's really the main part where I was like, I wonder what generation she's coming from as the speaker, saying that the rest of us are terrified of you. I do think we probably have a bad attitude. I mean, we just talked about we came into adulthood roaring, like not to steal Miley Cyrus's lyric, but we probably did come into adulthood like a wrecking ball. And we were like, we're going to fuck this shit up. Like, it's not going to be the way it was. And I think to an extent we still have some of that, even if we have mellowed. Again, I believe I have mellowed, but
I
do
mean,
I still have like a
I keep thinking of
what?
Kelly Mano, who's a TikToker.
Mhm.
I love her. And and one of her things, she's sitting in her car and she's like, you think I'm afraid of an assault charge? I've got money for a lawyer now.
Yeah, I agree.
That
I
kind of
agree. I
sums
mean,
up our
like,
generation. We're like, yeah,
yeah, I agree. I do think we have a bad attitude. And I think if you are like, depending on your demeanor, that can be intimidating and that can be scary. So, like, are we scary, like, as a pack? Maybe. But also, like, we had to deal with a lot of shit that the rest of you guys don't know about. I don't know. Like, I'm not really sorry if we're scary. Like, I'm not really sorry about that. And I do think, to your point, like Kelly Mano saying, like, I'm not afraid of an assault charge. I think there's a lot of things that frighten other generations, and our cohort is not frightened by it. Like I mean, I think there's a lot of us that will stand our ground till we die. I don't know how many times I've said, like, this is the hill I'm gonna die on. I believe in this, and that this is the hill I'm gonna die on. And it might be something ridiculous, but I think we are probably intimidating, and we probably do stick to our guns maybe more than other generations. I mean, if we're the most self-sufficient generation in the history of mankind, everybody should be afraid of us. In all honesty, like, you should be scared.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think
There are less.
like, I mean, if you think about like the music from when we were growing up, like that was when like hair bands and they're like pushing boundaries and like men are wearing makeup and whatever. And like the whole like,
Let's not forget the epitome of angry, Alanis Morissette.
yeah,
I mean, we were raised on Alanis Morissette. I think she's only a few years older than us. Like, we like
yes, literally.
Alanis more like, yeah. So I mean, there was some angry music in our time.
And I don't think that a lot of other generations had that as much as us. Like, I don't think they pushed the boundaries and were like, I do feel like when I talk to mom and dad who are late boomers, but when I talk to them and I'm like, and I think, like being a hypocrite and selling out, that was like the worst thing you could have grown up to be. And they were like, it was a different time. We wanted to grow up and be like our parents.
Yeah, I think that's really a good illustration. I mean, I do think, I mean, parents were really kind of too young to be hippies. They are very definitely like some among the oldest boomers out there, or the youngest boomers out there. They're too young to really be hippies. But I mean, I think you can't say that the others didn't, because the hippies definitely, like, there was a whole sexual revolution and, all of that, and the feminist movement and stuff like that. But we
I guess
did
like
do things differently.
ours was angrier. Like the hippies, yes, they
I
were
think so
angry and they were
too.
like, but they were like, we're going to have sit ins and love ins. And we're like, we are going to fuck you up.
Yeah, we were like, we're gonna break down the doors and break everything in the way there. So I do think there was a different anger for us. And again, like, does that have to do with that we had to adult from the time that we were 10 and 11 and 12? I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't, I just, I think, are we scary? We're probably not. There's not that many things that scare us. I'm going to be real. The zombie apocalypse does not scare me. I just said I'm not going down like that. I don't know how I'm going to survive. I will take this weave out though, and I will fight till the end.
You'll be
So
the
there's
one who's
not
like,
that
hold
many
my
things that
hearing.
scare us. Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, like I said last week, we were talking about something else, and I was like, I will fight you. Don't, I don't not mean that.
Well, and like, I do like when if I have to talk about my childhood or something, and I'm like, well, my sister Jennifer is the oldest of four and kind of significantly the smallest, but she's the
Yeah.
scariest, which again came out of necessity. Like we were,
Yeah.
you were in charge of me, and I'm like, I can throw her across the room, but I still did what you said because you still scared me.
Do you remember there's a story about Mike, our brother, who's like 6'3", 6'4". He's a big guy, and he's
Crazy.
he's a string bean. He's long and thin, but he has really broad shoulders and he's real tall. And we were at a concert. This is when he was first dating the girl that he's now married to. And it was like a country music concert, and it was like it was almost like at a dance hall or something. Like, it was a low, like, no seating. Everybody stood on the dance floor, and you know. So we're leaving the concert, and I'm probably like 110. Like, this is like 15 years ago. Maybe I was 105. And we're leaving the concert, and we're just the three of us are walking. The place is almost empty. Most people have already cleared out, and something hits me in the back. And then I can feel there's like water. Like, whatever hit me in the back, there's like water. Like, my clothes are now wet. and I turned around. Do you know this
No.
story? Oh my God. We got to get Mike on here to tell the story. I turn around and there's four cowboys. I'm talking about like broad shoulders, like they've been hay hauling all day, shit kicker boots on. And I turn around and I go, what the? And there's four cowboys. And I'm telling you, the smallest one was our brother's size. Okay. I'm like 5'4", 5'5", and like 105 pounds. And I'm like, what the fuck? And the guy immediately is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I laid into these men. I was like, throat kicks. He's because he said he kicked the bucket. It was a beer bucket, like you could buy a bucket
Yeah.
of, six beers, and he had kicked it and it hit me in the back. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to hit you. Like, who kicks a bucket in a public place and hits people on the back? Like all four of them. I just marched right up to all four of them, like finger wagging, like screaming, multiple F bombs. I'm like screaming at them. They're definitely younger than me. They're definitely stronger than me. They're definitely all three of them or all four of them individually weighed 100 pounds more than me. Like absolutely. I did not care. I had had nothing to drink that night. I was not stoned. I was completely 100% sober. And I had two small children at home with me. Yelled at these guys for like 4 or 5 minutes. Mike was like, he told me later, he was like, I was sizing them up like maybe I can take two of them down, but Jennifer's getting her ass kicked tonight. Like I don't know if I can stop it. And Anne Marie, our sister-in-law, is also like a little feisty or a lot feisty, depending on the day. Also, Anne Marie's close to 6 foot tall. So I wasn't thinking like I have my bodyguards here. I was just like pissed. Like they hit me in the back with a bucket and there was water all over me. The guy at one point, Mike used to work at an apartment complex at this time in his life. And one of the guys was like, as I'm like screaming at them, and I stopped to like take a breath or whatever. And one of the guy goes, bro, I know you. You work at my apartment complex. And he goes like this to high five our brother. And I was like, don't you dare high five him. Altercation. No, but it was literally me screaming at everybody. Nobody got violent. They were super apologetic. I probably should have like, as soon as I turned around and he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I feel like maybe that describes why people are afraid of us is because we're like a loose cannon because like that could have gone like I could have just turned around and been like, bro, like poor decision, man. But instead, like I'm telling you, I laid into this guy. I laid into all four of them for like 5 minutes. Like seriously.
think like
Mike and Anne Marie were both like, yeah, we thought we were all gonna get our asses kicked tonight. I was like, I was kicking their ass. Like I wasn't again, I'm not going down like that.
yeah. But I think some of that is again because like we were raising ourselves, so we were
Yeah,
always so hyper vigilant. So we are like jumpy and we do react like overreact instead of just reacting.
yeah. I mean, again, going back to walking home after school, like it was anarchy. Like you were on alert the entire walk, and it was like we lived probably more than half a mile from the school. It was not a short walk, but we were on hyper alert the entire walk home.
And then playing after school again. I mean, because
Exactly.
because all of us were free range kids. So you had to be careful because the kids that were mean and that would steal your bike, they were also free range kids. So,
Yeah,
we were
exactly.
very hyper vigilant.
Would say for me personally, like I have definitely gotten feedback a lot in a lot of settings that I am intimidating. And this probably goes back to high school. I can remember in high school, like, we moved at one point and I had to go to a new the dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear her. I had to go to a new high school like for junior year. And even like I can remember like senior year, people being like, yeah, when you first got here, like I thought you were really intimidating. Like I didn't think you wanted to be friends with anybody. And so I would say that I have always not always, but in a lot of settings, for a lot of years, I've been told that I'm intimidating or that I give off intimidation. I also have I can remember my first job as an audiologist. some of the medical assistants, like I remember one day one of the medical assistants came in and she was like, "Can I ask you for a favor?" Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I remember her saying like, she probably had come in a couple of times and asked for favors. And I remember like her telling me at one point, and she was really sheepish saying it, but she was like, some of the other medical assistants are afraid to come and ask you to do this, like when we have a thing that we need you to, to consult on or whatever. And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't care. I didn't care. And that was only like 10 years ago. So I do think while I always thought that was just like me, like that's my personality, or like maybe it's my resting bitch face, like I don't know. But I mean, maybe that's more has something more to do with like our cohort and the moment in time that we grew up. And maybe it's not unique. Maybe it's not as unique to me as I've been led to believe it is. I don't know.
Well, because people tell me that they're intimidated when they first meet me, and I'm always like, yeah, because I always put it off as like, oh, because I'm tall and like I don't have little, I'm like, oh, it's just like my physical size and because I'm loud and whatever, and they're like, no,
Yeah.
it's like I make a point when I'm at work to smile a lot more so that because I'm like, I don't care if my coworkers are intimidated by me, they can be scared. I just don't want my patients to be scared of me. But I do have to kind of like make an effort to not be scary.
Yeah.
But I also
Yeah. I
am the
think,
nurse that like even other people will come and be like, hey, I've got a patient that's being a real pain in the ass. Can you just I'm like, yeah, I'll just come stand there behind you. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, I've definitely like been the provider who, if there was like something happening at the front desk, sometimes patients get real crappy to the front desk because they think they can just
Yes.
abuse them. I've definitely been the provider that stepped in on that a few times, or, like I've definitely used that whole like you're intimidating. I've used that to the advantage of coworkers or myself at times. But I mean, I would definitely say being called intimidating is a theme throughout my life. That's definitely a theme. And I've even like there have even been times where like maybe I've had like a pack of people that I hang out with on a regular basis, and somebody will tell me like years later, like, yeah, remember so and so that used to hang out with us? That guy really liked you. He wanted to ask you out, but he always found you too intimidating or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's on him because I might have been a good time, but here we are. So
One of
I
my
don't know.
really good friends from nursing school, LaShonda and I both like I was like, oh, I didn't want to talk to you. I thought you were such a bitch at first. She's like, I know, I thought you were a bitch too. And now because we're not bitches
Yeah.
to each other. But yeah.
Yeah, that medical assistant who confessed to me that the other medical assistants were afraid to come and ask me when they needed me. She ended up because I mean it just like broke ground when she said that. And so she ended up being somebody like she had a daughter who had a lot of like ear issues and stuff like that. And she would like text me at home like on the weekend and be like, "Oh, the baby's doing this. Do you think this is okay?" Like she totally got over whatever fear she had of me, but I can tell you that some of the other medical assistants at that clinic and that time did not get over it. And I know like it was brought to my attention even by like management. And that's not the only time that like management has said to me, like, people find you a little intimidating. When I was younger, I used to always like try to, like you said, like I would try to smile more. I would try to change things. And now I'm a little bit like, and maybe this is a topic for another day, but now I'm a little bit like, you know what? I didn't get where I am by being freaking nice all the time. And if you find me intimidating, I'm not even sorry. Like, I'm actually not sorry. If you find me intimidating, then you can either get over it and deal with me, or that's fine. Like, I have other things to do anyway. I've kind of come back around to where I'm a little bit like, I don't care. Like, that part of me has served me well. Like I didn't get where I am today without that part of me. So I don't care anymore if people find me intimidating, which maybe makes the point that the speaker was trying to make.
Yeah.
We wouldn't care. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Cause like I will mom voice a doctor. Like, people are like, did you just speak to your
Yeah.
doctor that way? And I'm like, I did.
Full respect. When the medical assistants come back and tell me, like, I need you to do this now, I actually have a lot of respect for that. I'm like, okay. I mean, sometimes I don't say okay. Sometimes I'm like, well, I also have to finish with the patient I'm with right now. So that's going to have to wait. Like there are times that it turns into that, but I have a lot of respect for the people, especially if they've told me previously, like, I find you intimidating or I find you scary. If they come back and push at me and are assertive, I have a lot of respect for that. Like a lot of respect for that. Yeah. And this is a very long episode. I wonder if we need to edit it a little bit. We're not that cool. And also, like, remember how we don't give a shit. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that this is it's a loaded topic. And I mean, we could talk about this like 10 more times and still just be scratching the surface, but we would love to hear what everybody else thinks about Gen X, if you're from the outside of Gen X or if you're from the inside. And I mean, if your experiences align with ours, just, we would love to hear about it. Okay, good. Okay, good talk. See you later. Love you.